The first thing I noticed was how tightly Emily was holding my hand beneath the table, not nervously and not because she was afraid, but because she knew me well enough to sense when my mind was somewhere dangerous. The ballroom glowed gold beneath crystal chandeliers, every wine glass catching the light like tiny fires. Soft piano music drifted through the reception hall while guests laughed quietly over champagne and half-finished meals. The smell of roses and candle wax hung in the air. Beside me sat my wife, and even after the ceremony, after the vows and the rings and the kiss everyone applauded for, the word still felt unreal in my head. Wife. I kept repeating it silently as if it belonged to somebody else's life. Emily turned toward me with the soft smile she always wore whenever she was trying to read my mood. "You okay?" she whispered. I nodded automatically, but she knew me too well to believe that answer anymore. At the front of the room, my father stood from his chair and tapped his spoon gently against his glass. The room quieted almost immediately. My chest tightened the second I saw him straighten his suit jacket and clear his throat. "Daniel," he began, lifting his glass toward me, "I've never been more proud of you than I am tonight." People smiled warmly around us. Someone at another table let out a soft laugh. Emily squeezed my hand once beneath the tablecloth. My father looked older now than he did most of the memories I carried of him. Gray hair at his temples, softer eyes. Time had polished him into someone respectable looking, trustworthy looking. Funny how age could repaint a person. If nobody in that room knew our history, they would have thought he was the picture of a loving father. "You found a woman who truly loves you," he continued, glancing toward Emily with a smile, "and marriage is about choosing that love every single day." Something cold moved through me when he said that. Choosing love. I almost laughed, because when I was 8 years old, I learned people stopped choosing love all the time. Sometimes suddenly, sometimes after years together, sometimes in the middle of an ordinary Thursday night while your son slept upstairs believing his parents would stay together forever. My father kept speaking, but his words blurred into the background as another memory pushed its way into my mind. A kitchen light glowing in the dark, my mother crying, a plate shattering against the wall. I was 8 years old the first time I heard them scream at each other. Before that night, I thought our family was normal. Dad worked late sometimes, Mom helped me with homework, and every Friday we rented movies and ate popcorn together on the couch. My father used to kiss my mother on the forehead before leaving for work every morning. I thought that was what marriage looked like. I thought love was permanent because children always assume the things around them will stay exactly as they are. Then one night I woke up thirsty and walked downstairs for water. Halfway down the staircase, I heard my mother say, "How long has it been going on?" I froze immediately. The kitchen light spilled into the hallway while their voices cut through the silence of the house like broken glass. "Keep your voice down," my father hissed. "How long?" she repeated, louder this time. There was a pause before he answered. 6 months. At 8 years old, I didn't fully understand what that meant. 6 months of what? Why did my mother sound like she couldn't breathe? "You lied to me every day," she whispered. "It didn't mean anything." Even as a child, I knew that sentence was terrible. It didn't mean anything. Then why destroy your family over it? "You missed his birthday dinner for her?" my mother snapped suddenly. "You let me sit there with our son waiting for you while you were with another woman?" I remember gripping the stair railing so tightly my hands hurt. Another woman. That was the moment something inside me changed forever. Until then, my father had felt enormous in my mind, like fathers are supposed to feel, safe, certain, unshakable. But hearing those words made him suddenly seem smaller, weaker, and frighteningly human. The fights became constant after that night. At first, They tried to hide them from me. They waited until they thought I was asleep. But anger leaks through walls no matter how careful people try to be. I heard everything. The accusations, the crying, the endless conversations that went in circles without ever fixing anything. She was there for me. I was raising your son. You stopped caring about us years ago. You betrayed me. Some nights my mother cried quietly behind closed doors. Other nights she screamed so loudly I buried my head under my pillow just to block it out. Once I watched my father punch a hole through the laundry room door. Another time my mother grabbed their wedding picture from the living room shelf and threw it across the room. Glass exploded everywhere. I remember staring at the cracked photograph afterward, their smiling faces trapped behind broken glass. That image stayed in my head for years. One night, after another fight, my mother sat on the edge of my bed while I pretended to be asleep. Her eyes were swollen red from crying. She brushed my hair back gently and whispered, "Don't ever think this is your fault." Which of course meant part of her already knew I did. Children always think they caused the storm somehow. Maybe if I'd behaved better. Maybe if I hadn't needed so much attention. Maybe if I'd been enough. The divorce happened slowly and then all at once. Lawyers, papers spread across kitchen tables, boxes filling hallways, my father moving into an apartment across town. I still remember watching him carry the last box to his car while my mother stood silently at the living room window, pretending not to watch him leave. She looked hollow, like somebody had removed something vital from inside her. After he drove away, she locked herself in the bathroom and cried so hard I could hear her through the walls. That became our life afterward. Silence, bills, exhaustion. Years later, my mother told me about the life she had before me. She had started her dream job at an accounting company in Chicago only a few months before she got pregnant with me. She graduated near the top of her university class and was the first person in her family to work in corporate finance. Whenever she talked about those days, there was always a strange sadness hidden underneath her smile. She described the office windows overlooking downtown, the excitement of handling her first major account, the feeling that her future was finally opening up in front of her. Then she met my father. Then she had me. Daycare became too expensive. My father traveled constantly for work. Someone had to stay home, and my mother gave up her career, believing it would only be temporary. Temporary turned into permanent. After the divorce, I once found an old photograph of her from those years hidden inside a drawer. She stood in front of a tall office building wearing a black blazer, smiling confidently at the camera. She looked different in that picture, lighter somehow, alive in a way I barely recognized. I remember staring at it and realizing my father hadn't just broken her heart. He had consumed her future too. The worst part was that she never blamed me for any of it, not once. By the time I reached high school, I had already decided love was basically a delayed tragedy, temporary happiness before inevitable disappointment. I watched classmates fall in love and secretly thought they were naive. Wedding vows sounded fake to me. Promises sounded dangerous. People said forever because they were terrified of admitting they couldn't actually guarantee anything. Then I met Emily when I was 26 years old, and I spent nearly 5 years trying not to love her back. Not consciously, I loved her almost immediately. But accepting it was different. Emily was patient in ways I didn't understand at first. Most people leave when you keep them at arm's length long enough. She didn't. Even when I gave her reasons to. About a year into our relationship, she looked at me across her apartment kitchen one night and asked softly, "Why do you always act like I'm about to disappear?" I didn't know how to answer her. How could I explain that every happy thing in my childhood eventually exploded? That love, in my mind, always came attached to a countdown timer? If she answered a text too late, I assumed she was losing interest. If we argued, I mentally prepared for abandonment. If she told me she loved me, part of me immediately wondered how long it would take before she stopped meaning it. Eventually, my fears started hurting her. Whenever things became too serious, I pulled away emotionally. I became cold after vulnerable moments. Sometimes I picked pointless fights because chaos felt more familiar than peace did. Once during an argument, Emily cried and asked, "Why am I paying for something someone else did to you?" That sentence hit me harder than anything else ever had, because she was right. My father cheated on my mother, and somehow I had spent years punishing Emily for it. I was terrified of becoming him, but in trying so hard not to become careless with love, I became emotionally absent instead. Different damage, same result. The ballroom suddenly erupted in laughter, pulling me back to the present. Apparently, my father had just finished a joke during his speech. I forced a smile while my thoughts slowly returned to the room. Then my father said something that caught me off guard. "I know I wasn't always the perfect father," he said quietly. "But seeing the man Daniel became and the love he and Emily share gives me hope." Hope. The word sat strangely in my chest, because despite everything, despite all the anger I carried for years, part of me understood something complicated about my father. He loved me. He failed us horribly, but life was never simple enough to turn him into a complete villain. That almost made forgiveness harder. If he had been entirely terrible, hatred would have been easy. Instead, he was human, weak, regretful. A few minutes later, my mother stood to give her toast. She looked beautiful that night, not glamorous in some dramatic way, just peaceful. Honestly, that felt more miraculous. She lifted her glass toward Emily first. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice already shaking with emotion, "for loving my son." Emily immediately started tearing up beside me. "When Daniel was little," my mother continued, "he used to sit beside me during thunderstorms because he was scared of lightning. He'd pretend he wasn't afraid, but he always held onto my arm." The room laughed gently. After my divorce, I worried about him constantly, not because he was angry, but because he stopped believing in things. Her eyes met mine across the room. He stopped trusting happiness, stopped trusting love. Part of him decided that if something beautiful existed, it probably wouldn't last. I stared down at the table because hearing someone describe your private wounds out loud feels strangely unbearable. "When I was 23, my mother continued, I started my dream job at an accounting company downtown. I thought my whole life was beginning exactly the way I planned." Her voice trembled slightly. "Then I got pregnant with Daniel, and life changed. I left my career to raise him while his father worked, and after the divorce, there were years where I felt like I'd lost too much of myself to ever recover." The ballroom had gone completely silent. "But Daniel saved me," she whispered. "He gave my life meaning during the hardest years of it." My throat tightened painfully. "And the hardest thing as a mother," she continued, "was watching my son become such a good man while secretly believing he didn't deserve to be loved properly." Emily reached for my hand again. "But then he met Emily," my mother said, smiling through tears now. "And somehow, patiently and stubbornly, she taught him that love doesn't always leave." I felt tears burning behind my eyes. "I used to worry my experience with his father would destroy Daniel's faith and love forever," she whispered. "Instead, tonight, I get to watch my son marry someone who sees every broken part of him and stays anyway." Emily was crying openly beside me now, and honestly, so was I. My mother raised her glass one final time, to healing after heartbreak, to love after disappointment, and to my son, who finally allowed himself to believe in love again. The room burst into applause, but I barely heard any of it. Because for the first time in years, sitting beside the woman I loved while surrounded by the ghosts of everything that once made me fear love, I realized something simple. Maybe love was never about finding people incapable of hurting each other. Maybe it was about finding someone willing to stay, to keep choosing you even after seeing every damaged part of who you are. I looked down at Emily's hand resting over mine, and for the first time in my life, instead of waiting for the moment I would lose something beautiful, I finally allowed myself to believe it was mine.